And welcome back, everybody. Thousands are flocking to the Vatican to pay their respects to Pope Benedict XVI. Died on New Year's Eve at the age of 95. 2013, Pope Benedict became the first pope to resign in 600 years, citing declining health. For many conservatives, he was a staunch defender of the Catholic traditions, Christian faith, and morality, leading the church through a pretty tumultuous time. For more on this, let's bring in Archbishop of San Francisco, the Archdiocese there, Salvatore Cordileone. Happy New Year to you, Your Grace. What are your reflections on the passing of Pope Benedict?
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you. Pope Benedict, I believe, inspired a lot of people, especially young people, with his insights into our Catholic faith tradition. And it's a sad time, but it's a time of gratitude as well to God for gifting us with such a brilliant theologian and man who really had a pastoral heart. Not many people, I think, got the opportunity to see the person who is Joseph Ratzinger. The person is quite different from the public perception. He was a man of great gentleness and humility, a good listener, a very witty man, and with a real pastoral heart, but a brilliant mind of breadth and depth of the whole Christian tradition and a way to articulate it in a way that is accessible to everyone.
Right, and this practicing Catholic was devastated when he stepped down, in particular in the wake of what we've, in my opinion, what we've suffered since. Your Excellency, I will not ask you to comment on this, but I want to set up something here and then ask you the pointed question that I think is on my mind and a lot of others' minds. The current papacy, they bypassed you from being elevated to cardinal, even though you had seniority, for lack of a better term, over Robert McElroy. I believe that was a political decision. Now, this Pope is installing a lot of progressive left-wing extremists, in my humble opinion, into positions where they promote principles contrary to Christian doctrine, contrary to Catholic doctrine. Here's my concern, and the concern of a great number of the laity out there. There seems to be a division between the progressives in the church who wish to mainstream the church and those traditionalists who believe that Christ's message is the message that must be preserved at all costs. Can you address our fears of a split in the church?
I would agree with you. There's this increasing polarization in the church, which is kind of mirroring what's going on in the wider society. But we've been dealing with this for a very long time now, ever since the changes that were implemented after the Second Vatican Council. This is where Benedict was such a great gift to the church, calling us to reread the Second Vatican Council in light of the continuity of the tradition that came before, because this idea was set in that this was a rejection of what came before, doing something new, doing something more like what is in the modern world, when instead we needed to reflect seriously on how we can convey this timeless message to a world that's been very much changed. And yes, we have to adapt. We have to hold to this timeless message. So we've been dealing with this for a long time. It seems to be getting worse now. But I think Pope Benedict had the right vision about trying to reread this council and live it in a way that is in continuity with the tradition. Because if we actually read what that council said, it is in line with everything that came before, for sometimes even centuries before. So I think if we can reclaim that, then we would have this sense of continuity. Because if this is a revolution and it's changing, putting something new in place, well, what's new today is old tomorrow. And what was new 60 years ago is already old to a younger generation, and they can replace it with something new. And 2 generations from now, they can replace it with something new. So instead, we need to understand this timeless tradition. And I think there's a legitimate diversity of pastoral approaches, but there's no diversity when it comes to rejecting the message of Christ or adapting it in a way that makes it more comfortable for one to live in this world. It's going to be uncomfortable to live faithful to Christ in the world at any time, but especially now. Yeah. So I think I agree with Pope Benedict about this sense of rereading the council in the light of the continuity of our beautiful tradition that's gone for 2,000 years up to then.
Yeah, well, Your Excellency, I want to ask you one more question here, and it does concern Pope Francis, because everything that you just said was so enlightening to me, because Saint Pope John Paul II, I believe that Pope Benedict was more of a continuation, more expansion of what he had tried to do, and that's the church I grew up in. of Pope John Paul II, of a reawakening, in particular among the youth. Pope Francis, on the other hand, has expressed an admiration for communism. And as you know, this barbaric and inhuman ideology leads to nothing but misery, slavery, and a loss of God-given freedom. In fact, communism doesn't allow for the worship of anything other than the state. Can the Catholic Church, or frankly any church, survive if it is seen as just another branch of the communist world?
Communism per se is an atheistic ideology, so it's incompatible with any religion, any belief in God. There are certain principles of communism in terms of like shared property, for example, that we've had in our church for almost the beginning. We have religious communities where the members take a vow of poverty. They don't own their own personal property. They share everything in common. But this is a free choice for them to enter into such a community. So there is a place for that in a religious sense, but there's no place for a political ideology of communism per se. We can debate about how much government assistance should be given to help those who are in poverty, but communism per se, no, it's incompatible because it's an atheistic ideology.
Well, Archbishop, you have been a guiding light for me personally in this program. We appreciate your constancy and always the time that you carve out for the Chris Salcedo Show.